I'm not sure why, but for some reason, I feel that 2D platformers are being overlooked a lot in recent years. Sure, some platformers have gotten quite a lot of praise, like Celeste back in 2018, or the year before that, the incredible Sonic Mania. But even then, I feel like these games are still overlooked by many by the simple fact that they are 2D platformers, and with the rising popularity of open world games and story-driven games that seem to overshadow these wonderful titles. Just last week, both Sonic and Mario released great 2D platformers, where Sonic Superstars is a respectable entry in its series with its focus on exploration and art style, and Super Mario Wonder being probably one of the best 2D platformers ever made with its insane creativity and life-filled world. And in the spirit of these two games having released, I wanted to take the opportunity to not just talk about these two games, but modern 2D platformers as well, and why they are so amazing. I'll be limiting myself to titles released from 2013 up until now, since I think that's pretty modern. And I think the best place we can start in is the atmosphere. There is just something about 2D platformers that can immerse you into their worlds in a way that I think is a lot harder than a story-driven game. You see, story-driven games immerse you in the form of well-written characters and gripping narrative, which can a lot of times be enough to make you get through a game you might find a bit boring at times. 2D platformers, based on their limitations to the 2D playing field, immerse the players through a different form entirely, which I think are emotions. I know that sounds vague and that other non-2D platformers can do the same thing, but think about it. The best stages in platformers are those that manage to get you in on this feeling they want you to feel. Not just from how the stage looks or sounds, but to how it plays, which adds on to how you feel. For me personally, one of the strongest recent examples of this is Celeste. Celeste is a really demanding game, from its insanely tough levels to at times hard to deal with narrative. What makes this game stand out is how it blends the core feeling of anxiety into its level design, by constantly throwing these really hard challenges like using the feather in tight spaces or the ghost blobs, whatever, that limit your movement in close spaces. The game, in a way, manages to replicate the feeling of not feeling like you're good enough to be able to accomplish something, just how Madeline feels in the story, but the level design doesn't feel unfair at all. In fact, the game gives the player this small window of opportunity to finish levels, and once you press on, master the movement and the task at hand, you complete a level, and that feeling of accomplishment you get isn't just a feeling that you beat the level, but you managed to overcome yourself as well, and this really specific emotion is something that I think is made possible thanks to this being in a 2D platformer. On a more lighthearted note, we have your levels that take you through a journey of just vibes. Donkey Kong Country games have done this well in the past, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is no exception. These stages are typically long that switch up the platforming multiple times within a single level, with music switches as well to accompany the mood. You could go from a regular platforming to a minecart ride to being thrown into a wind tunnel in the matter of seconds, and the game pulls these switches off masterfully. I do love David Wise's work here on the soundtrack, and I think that's one of the core elements that guides you along this incredible trip. And these feelings of emotions have been a lot easier to create, so to speak, thanks to improvements in technology. Main games have better visuals, sound design, and other factors, which means that developers aren't as limited as they were, say, back when the very first Mario Bros came out. And this leads them to create, actually some of the most bizarre and creative video game levels out there. And although 2D levels might be limited in terms of playing field, being constrained to generally 4 different angles of movement, they make the most out of these capabilities to create something unique. I remember back in the Wii U days, a friend told me to try out the demo to Rayman Legends, so I did just that. Although I have only played the demo, there is one level that still sticks with me to this day, which is Castle Rock. This stage is a music level, where the actions you have to make are timed to the beat of the song. It might not be the most creative implementation of doing something to the beat of the music, compared to probably later levels in the same game or other rhythm games, but man, was it creative and memorable. The weird chants of the enemies, the hitting them on the beat of this drum, or the crazy electric guitar solo as you pick up the yellow bug currency thing. Sorry, I don't know what they're called. I've only played the demo 10 years ago. This stage is bustling with life from the world, the stuff going on in the background, all capped off with Rayman finishing the stage with a crazy good air guitar solo. But if we have to talk about sheer creativity in 2D platformers, I think we've got to take a look at what is probably going to be a Game of the Year contender for this year, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This game, man, is just incredible. From the lively animations, fun sound effects, calming music, and engaging platforming, this game is truly at the top of the summit of the greatest 2D platformers, but the big thing this game does are the Wonder Flower. Wonder Flowers are a stage-altering effect that gives you the chance to collect a Wonder Seed, a collectible that is required to progress in the game or to just 100% complete the game. And when I say stage-altering, I really mean stage-altering. I don't think there's one example in particular to highlight here because of my many hours in the game so far. They are all insanely creative. You have this platforming challenge that is timed to the beat that speeds up as the stage progresses, to piranha plants doing a musical number on the second stage of the game. It's actually crazy how unpredictable the game becomes when you're under the effect of one of these Wonder Flowers. Even more, stages can suddenly turn into a stampede, turn you into a super high jumping enemy, to a completely different perspective shift for the player alone. If you really want to experience how crazy some of these wonder effects are, I recommend just picking the game up for itself. It's innovative in so many ways, it's just such a great time alone or with friends. And I think the last thing that makes 2D platformers special is the art direction. It's simple, but at so many times it works. Just like the vibes I mentioned earlier, the art direction also adds the feelings that we can feel, but many times 2D platformers have this look to them that doesn't get old, making them look so different from anything else on the market. Sonic Mania has the classic 2D pixel art look to it, but looks super clean. Celeste looks comforting and daunting at the same time, and Carrion, just look at this, it just looks so grim and dark. Or look at Sonic Superstars. Some people will say it looks like a mobile game, which in some stages I actually have to agree with them, but just look at this blue fella running around on Bridge Island Zone, running up the walls with his super fast legs. I will be the first to admit that I have a strong bias towards Sonic, but there is just something wholesome and exciting about the way the game looks. Hollow Knight and Blasphemous, two other games that are 2D, but are more Metroidvania than a true platformer, but look nothing like any other game on the market. Blasphemous in particular, inspired by Catholicism and Spanish culture, makes the pixel art here look like no other game out there. It truly is a spectacle. That about wraps up my takes on modern 2D platformers. I know there's still tons of platformers out there I could have mentioned, but I haven't played them all. And there are also tons of other things that could make these games as great as they are, like the actual level design and other gimmicks that they might have, but I think I'll save those for another time. Not quite sure how I should end this video, but I highly recommend you to check out any of the titles that I've talked about in this video. They're all great in their own rights and are bound to give you a super fun time. And with that, welcome to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video, it really does mean a lot. Comment your favorite 2D platformers down below. They don't just have to be limited to modern platformers, but you can also talk about your favorite classics too. If you enjoyed the video, a like is appreciated, and a dislike too if you did not enjoy the video. And if you want to see more from me, a subscribe comes a long way in helping the channel out. With that said, I think I'm going to keep playing Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Wonder, and I will actually be postponing playing through Alan Wake 2, since I want to finish these two titles before getting onto that one, but man, I cannot wait to play Alan Wake 2. And that's about all for me. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, night, and week, and with that, Storm out.